Ladies and gentlemen, here he is. Woo! The sensation, Jason Gavon!
Danmark har fået en ny verdensmester. Mikkel Kessler. He's the fucking champion of the world. Mikkel, man.
Adonis Stevenson, piece of shit.
No, I think Rosado, good boy. Rosado is a good boy.
I've become a massive international superstar. It's as simple as that.
I eat your asshole alive, you bitch. Scared of the real man. I'll fuck you till you love me, faggot.
I'm going to physically shoot David Hay. He fucking glassed me. He glassed me.
Derek, cool down.
I'm Shannon Briggs. I'm hard to kill. I'm the black meat of the ball. I'm hard to fucking kill.
Well, I believe Christopher can take a punch. I'm very good at math and looking at a fighter and seeing what his abilities are. I can't see that Golovkin has anything like Christopher's speed, his power, his punching ability, his hand speed, his foot movement. I don't see that from a calculating point of view. I don't see that he has anything like that. So then it's going to come down to heart.
You know, I spoke to Joe Gallagher, they don't want to fight Carl Frampton. And the bottom line is, you know, no disrespect to Prosper Edgar, these guys aren't good enough to face Carl Frampton.
I'm the best heavyweight champion in the world. I'm half WPC with me. I'm undefeated champion. Undisputed champion. I want who next?
He's got my dieno-ribonucleic acid.
Undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Who next?
I love boxing, Sam. It's as simple as that.
Welcome everyone to the 130th edition of the Nuthouse podcast. I'm your host Andy Patterson. With me today I've got Alex Morris, Steve Wellens, Kurt Ward, Paul Webb and Adam Smith. Now gentlemen, practically there wasn't any action last week, and this week was almost the same. This kind of felt like a write-off last night, you know, a few fights meeting unsatisfactory conclusions. One fight seemed to be turning interest for a bit, and questions were getting asked until Collazo claimed in the corner that he couldn't see after getting cut. I think it was fifth or sixth round. I think he got cut. I think it was. Anyway, Keith Thurman, he was picking his shots pretty early in the fight until Collazo finally decided to start coming forward, and he did turn the tide of the fight in the fifth round as he turned full torque into that left hook to the body of Thurman. He was badly hurt. Thurman. He was actually looking very, very desperate and bothered as well. So they can try and cling on through that round. Now, Collazo, he was still strong, I felt, going into the sixth and seventh rounds, even though Thurman was probably still picking his shots. I was disappointed at the ending though, but meanwhile a lot of fans, Alex, have been critical of Thurman's performance. He called it Mayweather after that fight, but I think one time needs more time before fighting Floyd, he says, because times during that fight, you could actually even call them track time. Hype cooling though, amongst the hardcore fans, the PBC are kind of seem to be putting this guy out as still as the next big star. What do you think, mate?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? I mean, Thurman has been the guy that a lot of people have pegged their hopes on as being the sort of successor to Floyd, but he's not really looked too good in the past few performances, has he? I mean, we've had the Bundu fight, which is when he first started getting criticism, and then we had the Guerrero fight, which, you know, wasn't that too good, to be honest. I didn't think it was, you know, it was a solid performance by Keith, but it wasn't as exciting, and we probably expected, you know, a more emphatic end to it. And then obviously this Collazo fight, where we ended up with more questions being asked of Thurman. Obviously, there's been a few rumours circulating that he did have a bit of a soft body, as it were, and Collazo really took notice of that and really went to the body, and we saw Thurman really on the back foot from that big body punch. And, you know, I think I read something earlier on Boxing Scene that Keith said he was about to take a knee in that round, and you can see that, you know, he's fucking bent double. I mean, he's really hurt in that fifth round, and Collazo...
He was down, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't blame him if he did. You know, fair play for him for staying up, but Collazo really put it on him, and you've really got to be questioning where he goes now. I mean, he won the fight, obviously, and he was winning the fight despite, you know, that body shot, and you could argue that Collazo's coming forward a bit and getting a bit heavier. Obviously, the body attacks would have slowed Thurman down later into the rounds, but then again, you know, Collazo quit, so it's a bit of a moot point. But Thurman should have dominated him. I think you, Andy, yourself said Collazo's a bit of a, he's a washed-up drunk. If anything, he was a 33-1 shot for this fight, and you'd expected Thurman to really dominate, really put on something spectacular against him. Amir Khan, I'm not one to praise Amir Khan, but Amir Khan certainly beat the fuck out of him a lot more convincingly than Thurman did. You can argue, Thurman got the stoppage, but
made him quit.
Yeah, he made him quit, and it was a bit of a suspect quit. I mean, he said, "Oh, I can't see, I'm blind." I can't remember the exact words he was saying, and the cut wasn't that bad, but I thought Collazo probably could have gone on a bit longer, but he obviously didn't. But Thurman has definitely got a few steps to go before Floyd. It's getting a bit embarrassing now seeing all these fighters. All they're doing is hunting the payday. All they're doing is hunting the cash out, because they know maybe they're probably not good enough to beat Floyd. None of them are, and they just want the money and the recognition to give that extra boost when Floyd's gone. What they should really be doing is fighting each other and really solidifying this claim that they are the successor rather than being the ones as the opponents.
Yeah, I mean, that post-fight interview was pretty pathetic, actually. Adam, I mean, if you look at the fight there last night, I mean, going into it, we hear all the talk that Thurman's this big puncher. This kind of soppy story they keep putting on about his old trainer Ben Getty and stuff like that, telling him how he's got to hurt his opponents early and stuff. I think we're seeing a point now as he goes up in levels. I mean, I'm not saying Collazo's prime. He's a decent operator at that level in the past. I would still say that we're looking at Thurman here, and he probably does lack that KO threat, don't you think?
Yeah, I think as he's gone up the levels, I think he's got stuck in between styles a little bit. Against the opponents that offered little threat previously, before Bundu and Guerrero and Collazo, although those three guys didn't offer much as a threat in terms of hurting Thurman, they're all pretty not renowned as punchers, but there was obviously more dangerous technically. I think he's changed his style a little bit, and he's become more of a boxer than a puncher. So I think that's why we're seeing he's come to a standstill in terms of KOs. I think he's stuck in between styles a little bit. I think really with every fight, especially the last three mentioned, he's edging towards Santa Cruz territory for me, and in my mind that means I'm losing interest. And
Star's fading slightly, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's fading before it reached its full potential. I, as were plenty of others, was pretty high on him, early on, and when he was blasting people out, and I enjoyed watching him. But I didn't enjoy watching it last night. I think throughout he was tapping with his punches rather than really sitting down on them. And then obviously Collazo caught him with that body shot, as mentioned. I think Collazo did quit, and as Alex said, I do think he could have gone on longer. I don't know whether any of you, what telecast you guys were watching, but I caught an American ESPN one, I think.
Yeah, I got that one as well.
Teddy Atlas was mentioning reports of Thurman had a bad left hand. I don't know whether that will be ever proven as correct, but it didn't really make much of a difference to the fight. Poor. I don't know how they're managing to serve Collazo up as a eligible opponent. I think on the pecking order of welterweights, some including me before last night would have put Thurman above Khan, and Khan dealt with Collazo pretty easily last year. So how they managed to sell that, just goes on the list of definitely 2014 and 2015 Heyman opponents that are horrific basically, and it's getting a longer and longer list. You can tell why all of these guys, the Thurmans, the Brooks, the Khans, those kind of guys are waiting around for Floyd. It's the most lucrative thing that they can do, but in the meantime it makes it boring for all the rest of us.
Steve, were you impressed with Thurman last night? I mean, I don't think we've actually seen the best of him since probably the Chavez and Soto Caras fights, I don't think.
I wasn't really that impressed with him, but then I'm not as big of a believer in Thurman as some people are, to be honest. I think there's something... Well, fair enough. I mean, I can see why people were excited with him early on in his career, but I think there's something about him that we haven't found out yet. There's something missing. I don't know whether it's a lack of confidence or chin worries. I thought it might be at the time. Then I thought it might be stamina worries. Now maybe he's soft to the body. I don't know what it is, but we have to see him tested, I suppose. And in the 5th round, he took a fair few body shots, and he definitely wasn't comfortable. I thought he was close to going down. And I think if Khan sort of landed those shots to the body that he did against Madonna on Thurman, and I think Thurman would be in a whole world of trouble. From what I see of the two of them, I think Khan would beat Thurman if they fought. Thurman looked okay early on when he was setting the pace, pushing the older guy back. I mean, he did what he had to do, but it was what was expected against the level of opposition like Collazo. He's definitely had better days. He was a decent fighter in his day, but he's past it. And Thurman, I think early on he was aggressive and he was exciting to watch, and he was a big puncher, and I was quite excited to see how he progressed. But I can't remember if it was the Zavek fight or maybe the Chavez fight when he started boxing a bit more on the back foot, and then that turned into backpedaling, and then he's incorporated it more and more into his game with each fight, and it's starting to go from an asset, I think, that he brought into his game to a bit of a detriment now. I want to see the offensive, aggressive Thurman come back again, not this backpedaling Thurman all the time. But like I said before, there's a reason why he's boxing this way, and we're going to have to get to the bottom of it. But with the opponents that they're going to be putting in with him for the foreseeable future, I don't think it's going to be exposed.
Do you think it is laziness then? I mean, it is the Heyman factor, isn't it? It's he can fight, absolute buns and still get paid $1.5 million or whatever it is, so he doesn't really have to try. He just cruises along and gets the job done, as it were, rather than looking spectacular.
Yeah, I think there could be an element to that. I think that's a fair comment. His psyche could have changed, his whole mentality. Whenever he was on the up and he was exciting and hungry, and when they put him in against Chavez, that was an exciting fight. It was two unbeaten guys who could punch, and I was excited to see that fight, and there was a bit of buzz about him. But like you say, you get stale, and putting him in against guys who he doesn't feel can beat him, or the same old sort of tired faces, isn't pushing him, and he needs to be pushed. And but also, I do think there is something about him there that's waiting to be exposed. I think there are chinks in his armour behind the confidence. I think he is flawed, and he is. If he stepped up in level to the sort of elite competition, I don't think he'd thrive very well at that level.
I'd still back for him to beat Khan, actually. I mean, I know last night wasn't all that impressive, but at the same time, I still would take him to beat Khan. The same thing as Paul is, we're talking about. Steve mentioned there's something about him. It's just aching to get exposed. One thing I did notice last night is he was, even after the first 2 rounds, Collazo's pushing him back and stuff. His punch output isn't all that great, especially on the back foot. So that's maybe something as well, as he just cannot fight off that back foot.
He didn't seem particularly comfortable there, and actually when he did get caught with the shot as well, I think he adjusted to it well. I think the criticism of Thurman, I think, is a bit extreme, to be honest. I mean, he's had 3 fights where, if we're not going to count the Collazo as a stoppage, because obviously he took himself out of the fight. I mean, Guerrero, never been stopped before. Bundu, Guerrero was stopped 12 or 13 years ago. Bundu hadn't been stopped. These are sort of durable guys he's been in with. And he's won, in most cases, pretty much every round. And he was in a competitive fight last night, which is what we want to see. It was a better fight than we thought. But I don't think there's anything obvious to say he has chinks in his armour or there's anything that should be overly concerned. I mean, he got caught with a very good shot, and he recovered well in the sense that he knew what to do. He didn't stand there and try and trade. He backed himself off. He gave himself distance. Collazo didn't make the most of the opportunity. But I just think it's people are very quick to build a fighter up above where he should be and then take him down too quickly. I'm similar to Steve. I've never been massively high on Thurman, but I do think he could be a very solid welterweight, and he's been matched with better guys than other welterweight world champions are right now. So I've got no issue with what they're progressing with him, what kind of fights they're getting. He's calling out Mayweather so much because he's never getting that fight, because they're just not interested in him as an opponent. So he's making a lot of noise calling out Mayweather, and in the meantime, he's picking up big paychecks. So I think he's good. I think he'll be around for a few years. He's a young guy. He's not had that many fights, and I think he's definitely one we can keep an eye on for the future, for the next couple of years. Certainly, he will be in competitive fights, but I think writing him off at this point after another win is just daft.
Not writing them off, but Kurt, I dare say one thing needs to be worked on, especially in Keith Thurman's game, is inside fighting, because I thought at times there last night Collazo really worked him up on the inside at times.
I think the major problem for Keith Thurman is he's now stuck in not knowing what style he wants to what's the boxing? I mean, this is a guy who calls himself one time, you know, he hits a guy, they fall over, and for the majority of his early career, that's what happened. But I don't know why it's happened. But in the last, I'd say, he fought Diaz before Bundy. I think that was the last time we saw the old Keith Thurman. The guy who was looking to be one time and hurt his opponent and stuff. Since then, he's got the track shoes on. He's been running a hell of a lot, and you know, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, some boxers prefer that, but I just don't understand why he started doing it now. You know what they're working on and why he's decided to employ that. It's like we mentioned Tim Bradley a few weeks back, that he doesn't really know what style. He's not a puncher, but he fights as though he's a puncher. And Keith Thurman's doing like the opposite to me. He's gone on the back foot. He's using up a lot of energy just moving around the ring when there's no need. I mean, if he calls himself this big knockout artist. But if you think of other guys like, you know, Kovalev or Golovkin, they ain't moving around the ring like that, and no one's walking through their punches. Clarkson was not hurt once in that fight last night that I saw. Yeah, you know, it's a stoppage on his record, but there's no way he was hurt at all. He was walking through. He had no respect for Keith's power, in my opinion, because Keith wasn't really planting his feet at all. He was just constantly on the move all the time. And I just think, is his stamina good enough to do that for 12 rounds? Because it's one thing doing it against someone like Collazo, and I thought he was looking tired, and he was doing it against Guerrero as well. And is he going to be able to do that against better opponents? And you know, I just think he should go back to what you all liked about him before, to be honest. The guy who was a power puncher and looking to do damage. I just don't like the way he's just using all his legs too much. I mean, it's fine doing it now and again, especially if you're tired or you want to take a round off or something, but he just seems to be doing it from the start now, and I don't really understand why he's done it. And I think Al Bernstein mentioned it as well, that it's hard to evaluate Keith Thurman now, because it's like there's two different Thurmans, the power puncher now, he tried to turn himself into a boxer puncher, and now he's just like a boxer, so it's a bit of a weird one for me.
Adam, you had a couple of points you wanted to make on Thurman. I've got two questions in here from Aisha also, that she's really going hard just now about this.
Firstly, last night I was watching it thinking that Brook would struggle with Thurman, the style in which he fought last night and against Guerrero. I think they can, you know, he can mix it up quite well. He has got power, but obviously it's diminishing as he goes up level. But he can come forward, and he showed quite a lot last night. He can go backwards as well, and he had quite good variety. I just think Brook would struggle with that. And secondly, after Floyd so-called retires in September at 49-0, we all expect him to come back for the big 50. A lot of these guys like Thurman and Khan and, you know, Brook and whoever else you want to add to the list, who aren't fighting each other, are going to have to fight each other to make some sort of story and to get some sort of hype behind them, and then kind of, you know, Floyd, you know, Khan's beat everyone, or Thurman's beat, you know, 2 world champions in his last 6 months, come out retirement, can you defeat him? You know, so there's got to be a story there. And I'll answer one of Aisha's questions. I can predict it. Why does Thurman not get the hate that Khan does? Thurman should start to get the hate for chasing Floyd, you know, constantly.
He's not doing it as hard, but wait a minute, we've got to kind of just way back a bit here. Khan, who just stated about 3 or 4 months ago, is he would never talk about Floyd again, and then almost daily he starts kind of almost like gagging to swallow his balls.
It's embarrassing.
It's just recently that Thurman started kind of speaking about the Mayweather golden ticket.
I don't think either of them get hated for chasing Floyd on that side of the Atlantic. I think Amir gets hated for it on this side of the Atlantic, and I think a lot of it is to do with, you know, Brook. The hype is with Brook at the minute, through Sky, through Eddie, etc. And again, Amir Khan has neglected the British audience, and that's another reason why as well. But I'll let you ask the question officially.
Yeah, but can I just make a point on that? I think if you're going to criticise Khan for calling out Floyd and Keith Thurman, which I think that's what they should be doing, whether they're going to get the fight or not, they should be doing that. We don't want to see guys fighting shit guys. If they're calling out the best, you know, I don't see a problem with it. And if they do get the fight, fair enough. But if you're going to criticise Khan for it, you've got to criticise Thurman. You've got to criticise Cal Brook, because all he does is call out Amir Khan. So they all want the fights that get them the most money. That's just the way it is. And I think they're all doing it because they want that fight. Thurman has no chance of getting Mayweather. I think Khan is in with a good chance because of, you know, he's a little bit ahead of Thurman in terms of opposition, and there's not a lot of options left for Floyd.
Slightly daft and slightly biased question. Would the difference in money for Khan fighting Brook as opposed to Floyd, would the difference in earnings be that much different?
It's not about the earnings, though, is it? The idea is that if Khan fights Mayweather and loses, he still has the Brook fight. If Khan fights Brook and loses, he hasn't got the Mayweather fight. That's always been the circle that's gone round. And in terms of what would get more money, if he'd been offered $5 million for Brook, he's not going to get as a base fee $5 million for Mayweather. He'll get $1.5–2 million, which is what the likes of Madonna got first time round, Guerrero got. He'll be that kind of money. But I think it's more of a status thing, isn't it? And if Sky whacked it on pay-per-view, that would also generate a bit of cash. But I think the Brook fight would probably make Khan more money.
It's the future earning.
Overall, I think it would.
It's the future earning potential as well from fighting Floyd. It's the name recognition you get from being his opponent. And if you put in a good show, in the future you can say, oh, well, I did this well against Floyd. And, it gets their name out there and it makes them more of an earner in the future. But then again, based on the Heyman model, it doesn't really matter how much of a earner or ticket seller you are. You're getting fucking millions anyway.
Or conversely, you can get completely lost in your career like Robert Guerrero has for putting up a no-show against Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, but the thing is, you can still fight these guys. I mean, look at Brandon Rios. He fights Pacquiao, gets a big, $4 million payday, wherever it was, and then he commands big fees all the time. Same with Robert Guerrero. He lost every round to Floyd, but because he's been in there with Floyd, he can command quite good fees. I mean, he's fought twice this year and he's got over $1 million each time. So even if Khan fights Floyd and beats him, well, he's in the driving seat with any fight. Then he can command whatever. He's the A side against most guys. Even if he lost to Floyd, I mean, Brook would still needs him more than the other way around at the moment. Even though it's a fight that we all want to see.
I will say though, one thing that this has pointed out to make it more clear than it's ever been, that how much we have to start to understand the struggle of getting a good opponent over here for Brook, because the money in this particular division in America right now is insane. I mean, for these sorts of fights, and people are picking up $1 million, $1.5 million, and it's regularly as well. So, like you say, for your Guerreros, these sorts of names, why on earth would they come over to England to fight for a quarter of that money away against Kell Brook in a fight they probably won't win? You're starting to understand why. I think at some point, Brook is going to have to go the other way. He's going to have to go over there to get him those fights. Otherwise, he's going to be stuck very stagnant fighting Chris Van Heerdens and Leonard Bundus of this world.
Steve, just wrapping up the Thurman talk, where next for him? Obviously, I don't think any of us believe he's going to be in the frame to get the Floyd fight. Khan and Brook, I don't see those fights happening, so what's going to be acceptable for him? I mean, he needs a breakout fight to show that he is in that elite level, so I don't know what Maidana, but then Maidana's like fucking 5 stone heavy just now. I mean, he's like Roberto Duran between fights at the minute, so I really don't know who's going to be acceptable for Thurman next.
Yeah, Maidana was the one that sprang to my mind, but then exactly the same as you said, he's looking a bit on the heavy side, to put it mildly. So, and then even the guys the likes of Broner, I mean, at the time he could have said he could have gone in with him, but then I mean, he's just a complete laughing stock now, and I don't know what they're going to do with Thurman, to be honest. He's calling Mayweather, but I can't see it happening. I haven't got an answer for you, to be honest. Which
Sean
is,
Porter.
Well, yeah, you could put him in.
Yeah, I like that fight. That'd be a good one.
Mm-hmm. Well done, Kurt.
Oh, it'd be interesting to actually see how Thurman does cope with that pressure on the back foot, because, saying that as well, Porter obviously did show that he could box as well against Cloner as well, so it's not really a cut. That's a 50-50 fight, got to be.
So I mean, you see how if he's going to employ these same tactics, will his stamina hold out against someone like Porter? He's obviously crude, but his stamina's fantastic, and he'll keep going all night, and it'll just be interesting to see how he copes with that.
Well, you hear that. Hopefully Al Heyman gets that fight made and we can all be happy with a PBC fight for a change.
What about, what weight's Provodnikov fighting at these days?
147, is it not? 147?
I don't know.
Pretty sure he is, isn't he? So they're talking about the Rios fight.
Mm-hmm. What do you think?
But Provodnikov on PBC is a non-starter, isn't it, probably at the moment? I wouldn't have thought.
Isn't he free from all of that, though? He's with somebody else, isn't he?
He's free, but if he was dangled the Rios fight on HBO, he would take that probably over any fight on PBC. I think that's the problem with, like I said, guys who are fighting in that division who aren't involved with the Heyman setup, is the likes of you Bradleys and people. They're very limited for opponents, and Provodnikov knows that, so he knows if he sticks around, you'll get a decent fight, another decent fight on a top ranked card, I think.
Anyways, on that undercard, Tony Harrison was getting the big build up, and I think it was last month's Boxing Monthly. It wasn't a great fight, in all honesty. I think Harrison, I wasn't scoring the fight, but I did think he was maybe winning the fight, and then Willie Nelson turned round and stopped him in the 9th round. I think it was a left hook and a straight right hand round about the temple somewhere, perhaps, I think it was, and then Harrison just simply couldn't get his feet on time. Did anybody catch the fight? And more to the point is, I think it was Kurt, I think you've seen the fight, mate.
Yeah.
I think Tony Harrison, I think he's got a future in the sport.
I've liked him for a while, and I was shocked and sad to see him lose. To be honest, I think he's one of the last guys out of the Kronk gym, and obviously Emmanuel Stewart was working with him, and he's been on quite a few Klitschko undercards in the past. That's when I first saw him, and it was good to see him starting to get his big breakout. And Nelson is a tough guy because he's big for the weight, and he has upset prospects in the past. And Harrison, he hasn't. I don't think he's ever gone past 8 rounds. He's knocked out a lot of the guys early, but that KO record was obviously deceiving because as he stepped up, he didn't hurt Nelson once, to be honest, and he was hitting him with some good shots. I thought he was comfortably in front, but I think after about 7-8 rounds, you could see him visibly start to get tired, and he was getting caught with silly shots, and then that shot just came out of the blue, and it caught him right on the temple, and his legs were just completely gone, and the ref was right to stop it. And the sad thing is, you'd hope he would learn from this loss and come back stronger for it, but he looked absolutely devastated at the end. He sat down on the floor in the ring in the corner, and he just looked absolutely shell-shocked. And it's one of those ones where you wouldn't be surprised if he couldn't get over this first loss, to be honest, which is sad because obviously he's at the Kronk gym and he's a talented guy, and Stewart, said many good things about him. So hopefully he can, but it's a tough one.
I saw it, Andy. I think that Harrison can come back. I was quite impressed with what I saw of him for most of the fight. Nelson's a tough proposition. He's a big old guy for the weight, like you said. I think he's well over 6 foot. And it was do or die for him, and he took his opportunity. Just goes to show, no matter how far you get into the fight, even though he'd lost the majority of the rounds, he was still in there and pitching, in the 9th round. And I think he lost to Marty Rosie on his last fight, actually, and I thought that was going to be the end of him, but he's pushed himself right back into the mix with a good win over an undefeated guy, so definitely props to Willie Nelson on this one. But Harrison can come again, I think. I was impressed. It was a good fight, good match-up between the two of them, so props to the matchmaker again.
Anthony Peterson, I think he won in 6 rounds against, Rameses Gil. Antonio Tarver Jr. had a 4-round decision. And Edner Cherry had a 9th round knockout over Lewis Cruz. And I remember we mentioned Amith Diaz last week. He was coming to a fight for the first time in about 2 years, I think it was. After beating Martin Gethin. I think he got stopped in 3 rounds there last night. But last night actually. Now, Paul, I'll bring you into this one actually, mate, because just mentioned the PBC. I was trying to get a stream last night for the Mauricio Herrera fight against Hank Lundy. Now, it seems that Herrera's probably got lucky with the technical decision victory. Apparently Lundy was perhaps winning on the cards, but whilst I was actually trying to find a stream for that, I ended up watching the UFC card, mate, and there's, we're talking about how the UFC or the PBC's meant to trying to take the same route as the UFC, but we're mentioning off air and stuff like that. It's just a different production value in the UFC. Means superb atmosphere and 50-50 fights, sold out arenas as well. Whereas the PBC don't seem to be doing this. 50-50 fights are really happening that much. Atmospheres are poor, and so's the ticket sales.
Yeah, the sort of the 3 main things the UFC get right, PBC don't seem to be doing right at all. So in the early stages, I mean, I'm not professed to be a UFC expert. I've watched a fair bit. I'm not a massive fan, but I do keep an eye on what's happening. And the way they publicise and promote shows, the way they push tickets, the way they fill out the arenas, and considering how many events they have frequent shows, not that they put on 2 or 3 a year. And the atmosphere and event, I mean, the McGregor one was something special because obviously so many Irish travelled to watch it, but it was fantastic. I mean, I sat and watched the card this afternoon, and it was all competitive matches throughout. Yes, there were early stoppages, but on paper they were very competitive fights. If you look at the odds on bookmakers on a UFC event, it's very rare you get a 1-100 like we get over here. And because it's competitive and it's exciting, you get a lot of upsets, something that we've just not really seen on the PBC cards. I think the production value as well. So PBC have tried to put a lot of emphasis into that, but the decisions they've made have been very unpopular. The ring walk music, the ring fighters walking on their own, hasn't gone down well, and they either can't sell tickets, or selling tickets is so irrelevant to them that they keep putting on fights in totally random venues in cities where, I mean, the tickets are dirt cheap as well. Most of them start at $25, and yet the arenas are half empty. They're comping thousands of tickets to these shows. The model they've got is a good one to copy. The UFC works well. However, it's boxing, it's not the UFC. There's so many things that they need to improve on, and they just don't seem to have a real willingness to do it, and that's always going to be their problem.
I think you got like just things like Broner against Porter, the Battle of Ohio in Vegas. I mean, just something like that. I mean, giving away free tickets. People are going to be taking tickets who are not even boxing fans. They're probably just there for something to do for a couple of hours. They ain't got the interest in there, and it's just a lot of the atmosphere there. Well, there is no atmosphere in a lot of the fights, which is it's sad to be honest, because to be fair to him, and he has put on paper some good fights, and then just haven't lived up to it. But it's even harder when there's no fan interest, it seems. And I mean, like Carl Frampton being put in Texas, it's just very random and weird, to be honest. But I just don't think it works, to be honest. You need fans there who are there to either support a boxer or there because they're genuine hardcore boxing fans, and I just don't think you're getting that with a lot of his shows at the moment.
But do you know what the problem is as well? The problem is, I think, fighters' attitude. So UFC fighters, pay-wise, I'm not saying they get ripped off, because obviously, fighters their managers are smart and they try and get their money. But, I mean, McGregor got $500,000 for that fight last night as his purse, which is a big sum for a UFC fight. There aren't many fighters that command that kind of money. I mean, he earned a third of what Thurman did, and yet he brought over and sold out. Yeah, so I'm saying what the same as Collazo got for that fight. And yet his attitude was just impeccable the whole week. Dana White, a lot of people don't like him, but at least you can speak to him and he'll tell you what he's thinking. The problem with Al Heyman, the problem with PBC is it's an organisation run by someone who's not held accountable because no one hears anything from him. We have to just assume that he knows what he's doing and he's got the right ideas. So there's no fan interaction with that side of things. And it all just seems very distant. It's almost as if the PBC have gone, right, well, this is all free for everyone. Go and enjoy it. But there's no follow-up with that. Anyone can put shows on free TV, overpay fighters. It needs to be an attitude shift from the fighters in terms of who they will and won't be willing to face. And it also needs a big attitude shift in terms of how Al Heyman deals with the press and the public in terms of explaining his decisions. If we knew, for example, that he was lining up certain fights towards the end of this year, then you could go, okay, I'll accept this fight for Thurman, I'll accept this fight for Porter or whoever. But he doesn't do that. It's all a big guessing game. The UFC fans know what fights are coming, or they have an expectation of what they're going to see. And I mean, I've not been to a UFC event on the evening, but from people that have gone, people like Eddie Hearn that tweeted earlier saying they're brilliant to go to as an event. The fighter side, because we're not talking about the actual sport, but in terms of what's better looking to watch on TV and to be there live, and the UFC has that certainly over American fights where the production value is non-existent, especially in Vegas, and over most fights in Europe, bar one or two Klitschko fights or the likes of a Wembley bout. Very few have that kind of status and that look and feel that you get from a UFC fight.
Well, last week we actually started a prediction league, and it was the fight between Terry Flanagan and Jose Zepeda. Now, me and Kurt picked Zepeda, and I think it was Steve, Alex and Paul, I think you all picked Terry Flanagan. Of course, no rules were set out, and you all start claiming points and stuff like that, so just calm your jets. We'll need to be vacated this week, and we'll need to get the rules sorted out. But again, disappointing. It was really disappointing last week. I did think we might have got a good fight there last night. I thought Zepeda was very, very sharp with the jab. It did look like it might turn into a decent enough fight until I think both threw left hands, and I think it was basically kind of locked arms with each other, and just think the force has just popped Zepeda's shoulder out, the left shoulder. So it's really disappointing. Some saying it should have been claimed as a no contest, but I think was it the doctor that stopped the fight? I think. Don't know what happens. I need to check the rules on that one, but it was a real disappointment, wasn't it, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, we expected a lot more. A lot of people touted it as either, the best fight of the weekend, or at least one of the most equally matched fights of the weekend. It was a real 50-50, even in the bookies. The money was swaying, from side to side, really. There's not a lot to really say about what happened in the actual fight. Like you say, it's just, I think Zepeda started okay with the jab. He really, had an impact with that early on, but then his shoulder went, and you can't really say much else about it, can you? We expected, I was swaying the closer we got to the fight. I was swaying to thinking that Zepeda was probably going to knock him out. I was hearing a lot more stories about how good he was in sparring, how sharp he looked, how well he made the weight, and all this nonsense. But it was all irrelevant, and it's a very disappointing end. And my initial thought, and my a bit of a rash thought was, it should be a no contest, it should be a draw, blah blah blah. But then you realise that we've seen similar events like this. People get injured, and it is ruled as a retirement. that's the shit of the sport. Unfortunately, it's not about fairness either. I mean, fairness has never really existed in this sport. He got an injury, and it was part of the sport, part of the fight, and he had to retire because of that injury. We've seen Vitaly Klitschko retire due to a big shoulder injury. We've seen dozens of fighters retire due to injuries, and the best result that we can hope from here on in is the fact that we get a rematch ordered at least by the WBO, or a rematch organised by Flanagan and Warren. But I really can't see that happening. I think Warren pretty much dodged a bullet here. He's got himself a world titleist in Terry Flanagan, and he doesn't have to really match him strong at all now. I mean, he's probably going to get that Stephen Ormond rematch, which is going to be a big fight. Especially in Ireland, I think a world title over there, you probably get a few tickets sold over there. Domestically, the domestic scene's a bit difficult because Hearn's got the leash around most of the fighters, but I can't really see him matching Flanagan tough. As much as I would like to see the Zepeda rematch, I really can't see it.
Steve, that fight aside, I mean, Liam Walsh, Jack Catterall and Paul Butler all back in action. Did you catch any of these fights, mate? And if you did Jack Catterall, how did he look?
He looked okay. I caught them all. I mean, they were up against this new breed of South Americans who'd been brought over. They did okay, but they were never expected to win. They hung in there for a few rounds, but didn't put up much of a fight. And Catterall was okay. The opponent wasn't much. Catterall, the jury's still out on him. He looks decent, but they're sort of pushing him this, is it an intercontinental or an international title or something route? Might be okay for him. I enjoyed the Thomas Stalker fight at the end. That wasn't too bad, actually. He got a draw. I don't think he's going to fulfill his potential that he had when he turned professional, but he seems like he could be a pretty exciting fighter. And Butler probably stopped too early, but I mean, the opponent wasn't going to be giving too much either. And who was the other one that was on, you said?
Liam Walsh. Liam Walsh, aye. I mean, I'll tell you what, Liam Walsh, Terry Flanagan, that'll get made.
Yeah. Oh, well, I wouldn't object to that. Fair play to Flanagan, I'll just say. I mean, whenever he was running around the ring, it was an unsatisfactory ending, but I wouldn't begrudge him his win and begrudge him his payday. And he looked big in there. I thought he lost the first round, and I thought he was going to have a tough night on his hands, but he looked very big and very physically strong, and I think it would have warmed up to be a pretty good fight. And I think Flanagan Ormond, they'll probably be looking to make that one, won't they, at some point, or maybe try and sneak in a voluntary or something like that. But no, he did well, and he got paid a good whack. I hear he got paid about $250,000. Well, he's supposed to get paid about $250,000, hopefully. So fair play. No, I mean, obviously he has another check here, is what I'm saying. So
it's in the post, Steve. Don't worry.
It's in the post, aye. But mind you got to actually sign the contract extension first before you get paid.
Yeah, I'm sure it's all above board. No problem.
Yeah. Kurt, you had something you wanted to add on this card, mate? I think it was injury on Zepeda.
Yeah, I mean, it's unsatisfactory, and I was really looking forward to the fight, to be honest. But I've got to say, people have been criticising Flanagan, but he never did anything wrong, To him, we go on about all these shitty bouts and how we don't want to see them, but to a fighter, this is what they live for, To a fighter like Flanagan, for instance, this isn't a guy who's pound for pound number one, it's a guy who's starting out his career and he's got his first chance. And to him, this is his dream, so he's going to take the victory, as he can get it, and the fact is, Zepeda couldn't continue, so... I know people say it should be no contest, and of course, after 2 rounds, you'd like that to be the outcome. But if that was enforced, fighters could do it all the time. Fighters can, not fancy a job after a round or 2 rounds, and then say their shoulders popped out. And I just want to say, Zepeda couldn't carry on. He was in agony. There's not many Sordley Harrisons who dislocate their shoulders and can still win. That's just the way it is, unfortunately.
Adam, you had something you wanted to add, mate, on this?
Yeah, I thought it was warming up to be a decent fight, actually. And Flanagan did look big. I'm not going to claim to be an expert on him because of my Sky Sports bias. But, it was warming up to be a good fight. I mean, if we're comparing injuries, compared to Collazo, I mean, Zepeda was in a much worse state, and that's just an illustration, really. There was a bit of confusion, but my first kind of thing it reminded me of the Burns one against, was it Gonzalez? But that, I thought that was more of a quit anyway. But yeah, I think Flanagan, and also a point on Flanagan, he would be a prime candidate for me to at some stage make the jump over the divide, managed by Steve Wood. Steve Wood gets on with the other side of the divide. and other than Paul Walsh or whatever his name is, Liam Walsh, there ain't that many opportunities with Mr. Warren, and he can clearly sell a few tickets.
Now, just very briefly, we'll cut through the other two cards. Ruslan Chagayev defended that Toys R Us heavyweight title against Francisco Pianeta. I think, Steve, you actually even decided, I think you were going to side with Pianeta as well at one point, I think. But anyway, Chagayev, Kurt, 1 round knockout. It did seem like it was, again, a couple of tempo shots, and Pianeta had really nothing else to offer. In fact, I don't think he actually had anything to offer to begin with.
No, I mean, Chagayev lived up to his nickname, the White Tyson, didn't he? Just blasted through him in a round. I mean, to be fair, on paper, this looked like it could be a tricky night for him, because everyone knows Chagayev right now, he's fat, he's old. This bout that he's got, he's just a way for him to make a few paydays. You know, he's coming in at almost £250 now, so if you think of him when he held the other title, when he was considered more of a proper champion, he was coming in the 220s. I mean, yeah, I mean, this is, you know, it did surprise me, you got to give him credit for that, but he's next going to fight, I think, Fraser Quendo, and then the winner has to fight Lucas Brown. So
rematch. Where's that happening, mate? Do you know?
Not sure yet, but see, we complain again. We complain about these titles, but to Chagayev, he'd be absolutely irrelevant. But this bout keeps him going for paydays and keeps guys like Quendo and Pianeta in there. And for us, it's rubbish. But you know, no one considers Chagayev a real world champion at all. I mean, both of those guys have been stopped by the real world champion Vladimir Klitschko, so it just makes a mockery of the WBA, but you know, they do that every week themselves.
Steve, give me your reasoning behind why you wanted, or why you picked Pianeta to win that fight.
I don't know. Feel a bit ashamed now, to be honest with you. I just thought Chagayev just seen better days. He was big and fat, and Pianeta he fought Klitschko, didn't he? He was in reasonable shape, decent southpaw at a time, battled back from adversity, you know, with the cancer and all that. I just thought he'd have the will to win, and then I just saw him on the scales the day before, and that was the end of it. I didn't expect him to get blasted out in a round, though, to be honest, but yeah, Pianeta's finished. Vianetta, no.
Yeah, I was just thinking finally, the last card, the WBO and lineal light flyweight title fight, Donny Nietes against Francisco Rodriguez Jr. Alex, I think you're the only one that's seen the fight along with me, mate. Nietes, it was an okay fight. I mean, I wouldn't say it was the best fight of the weekend, but it was certainly, you know, more action than I suppose there was.
I'd argue it was.
Yeah, Nietes, you know, 33-year-old actually. You know, this guy at that weight would, you know, he'd be a dinosaur, but he still seems to be pretty much in his prime. He's still fluid motion, still got plenty of gas in the tank actually. And that's Rodriguez coming up in weight also, so. Good win for Nietes there last night.
Yeah, I mean, the thought of fighting, you know, Gonzalez and Inoue above, you know, the weights above you will probably do well for keeping you down at a light flyweight, I guess. But Nietes looked very good in that fight. You know, early on he had a bit of trouble, I feel. It was, you know, nip and tuck for both of them. They were both... Rodriguez was just going in a bit of strong pressure fighter, really putting the pressure on early. But Nietes, you could see he was finding holes in the in the onslaught. He was slipping in some beautiful right uppercuts constantly, which just, you know, like basically homing bombs, always landing on Rodriguez. And you know, he looked very sharp. I've got to say, Nietes did. Around halfway through the fight, Rodriguez apparently had quite a lot of weight issues getting back down to light flow. He balloons up quite a little bit between fights, apparently. I mean, I don't know too much about him, but you know, and that really started showing because his stamina was really sort of dipping in the middle rounds. His punch output was slowing, and you know, you could argue that Nietes, he was landing quite a few decent body shots as well, and that caused, you know, him to slow down as well. But he did seem to find a second wind, you know, in the last few rounds, did Rodriguez, and it made it really close. I thought the scores were, you know, completely out of whack. One card had it, I think, 115, 113, and the other
one had it 118, 110 or something like that.
Yeah, and the one was like 119, 109 as well. I thought they were far too wide. It was a close fight. I had it about 8-4 in rounds, I think. But Nietes definitely won. It was a clear win for him, and he looked very sharp. And you know, I was mentioning Gonzalez and Inoue before, and it would be good to see those fights at some point. But you know, Nietes is probably one of the most underrated fighters in the world at the moment. Not a lot of people have seen him fight. You know, it's the lower weights. Not a lot of people pay attention, unfortunately. But he's on the cusp of top 10 pound for pound. I mean, he just beat Rodriguez there as a former unified world champion. He's a very good fighter, but
beat Fuentes twice. I mean, the thing is, I think he's the longest reigning Filipino world champion in history.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep under your hat if you're at a pub quiz one night and stuff. A lot of people would probably say Pacquiao.
I mean, yeah. The thing with Pacquiao is he obviously went up through the weights and he never really stayed in one place for too long. And Nietes, like you say, has just been holding on to this belt for a while now. And it doesn't look like anyone's gonna really dislodge him from where he stands unless he himself decides to step up and go for the big boys. I mean, the fact that we've got Gonzalez and Estrada and Valoria all going to be on HBO might be a bit more incentive for Nietes to move up and possibly get a bit more money. But in the Philippines, he's become quite a decent star, I hear. Obviously not the astronomical levels of Manny Pacquiao, but he's arguably better than Daenerys at the moment, that's for sure.
I think we'll be getting some callers on just before we do. I think Kurt's just looking through the list, see who's coming on. Wait a minute. Just seeing if Stephen's there. Right, okay, well, once Stephen's coming on the call, we'll just get to this first question just now. I'll go to you for this one, Paul. Barry Evans is asking, is James DeGale the most underrated UK fighter? He was 80-1 underdog, 1 gold in Beijing and world title versus world class in Boston.
I would say he's underrated. So it depends what you define as underrated. Underrated generally means someone that's sort of gone a bit under the radar, who's got a lot of talent that a lot of people don't realise. I mean, everyone knew I think before the Olympics, people weren't quite as high on him as an amateur as they probably should have been. But since then, I think people have been, he's gone through, he's won the right titles, and he had a 12, 18 month spell where he kind of disappeared a bit. But no, I think people acknowledge that he is one of the best fighters in the UK. He's not the best fighter in the UK, but he's certainly up there. And he did very well to win the world title in the manner that he did. And I think that there's a lot of good fights out for him. So he's going to have a busy couple of years. But I think people know James DeGale. They don't think he's underrated at all.
Next question coming from Chad Hogan, Brian, aka Brian King. Steve, just when he mentions this fight, actually, it makes me want to go back and watch it just now. He says, just watching Salvador Sanchez against Wilfredo Gomez, who was the biggest waste of talent in boxing through death, laziness, etc.? That was a great fight. I mean, that wasn't like Sanchez to start so quick in fights and stuff, but he absolutely tore into Gomez that night. Fucking great fight.
Well,
because the bad blood between them.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you pretty anything really about that fight, to be honest with you, but Edwin Valero was always the one that I thought.
Yeah.
Just the way he had the punching power and the excitement, and I know he was a bit of a lunatic out the ring, obviously, and had his problems, but I would have loved to have seen him thrown in against the likes of, I don't know, Pacquiao or whoever, and it would have been some real exciting barn burners, and he went too young, unfortunately, so I'd throw Valero in for me.
I want to chip in Ike Ibiabuchi, just
Oh,
because of what a fucking psycho he was, and that fight with Tua was just absolutely mental. And if he wasn't such a mentalist, it would have been good to see how far he would have gone, or how he would have affected, the early 2000s, as it were, of the heavyweight division.
That's a great show, yeah.
I think Adam, you've obviously stated the obvious one, Mike Tyson.
Yeah, definitely. Just jail. Being a lunatic, buying tigers, shagging women who he shouldn't be. Yeah.
Alright, next. I've got that caller on the call yet, Kurt, no? Not yet. Okay, next one coming in from Chad Hogan. I'll go to you, Alex. Who will have a harder job next week, Quig fighting Kiko or the sign language woman working during Quig's press conference?
Well, I think that's a difficult answer. I mean, the sign language woman's been very busy lately, obviously, with Terry Flanagan last night as well. He's almost indecipherable at times. It's a close one. It's a 50-50 for me.
Shep, and I don't know if this is all Shep actually, but Kurt, if Kell Brook jumped on your back, would you let him ride you? Would you let him ride or toss him off? Who makes these questions up? They must sit at the weekend. I need to think of funny questions and into these.
I've missed these questions, and that's wicked.
So what's the alternative? Ride Kell Brook or toss Kell Brook off?
No, you let Kell Brook ride. If Kell Brook jumped on your back, would you let him ride, or would you toss him off?
I'd let Cal just ride me for a while. Who
Yeah,
cares?
because you probably have a knife at your throat, that's why.
See,
Kiko Perez, aka Cal Stones, Adam's asking if Smith and Rocky Fielding happening because Hearn wants it or because he's struggling to make the pay-per-view card. That's the 26th of September, isn't it? Is that that card?
Well, the bottom line is it should be happening, as we've been saying for a long while. Not sure. Domestic clashes do sell. Eddie likes domestic clashes, and maybe that would help bump up the a pay-per-view. Would rather see that than what we saw last November, where we saw Scott Quigg against some Japanese fella that no one's ever heard of for an apparent, regular title. So, yeah, the bottom line is the fight should be happening, and if it does, I don't care what format it's on. It's a decent fight.
Paul Stone's asking, rank the welterweights behind Floyd out of Bradley, Khan, Brook, Thurman and Bradley Skeet.
Poor Bradley Skeet. So what we got said, Bradley number 2. Thurman and Khan, I think it's a difficult. I think they're very, very close. I think you probably have to give it to probably Thurman in terms of consistency of performance. Khan is so up and down. But I think at the moment, Bradley, just because of his prior achievements, Bradley's still a clear number 2.
So you would drop Pacquiao at the top 2, top 3 altogether?
Pacquiao certainly, it's a difficult one with him because it depends how you look at him as an active fighter. Obviously, the obvious answer is it'd be Floyd, then Manny Pacquiao. Pacquiao's going to be out for a very long time now in terms of who's available and who's willing to fight. I think he's a long way away from himself. Would Pacquiao beat Keith Thurman as he is now if he was fit and ready? I don't know, to be honest. We don't know what happens to Pacquiao till we see him back in the ring. He put in such a non-performance against Floyd that it's very difficult to work out where he is right now. But if he is and he's fit and he's active, and obviously he sits there at number 2, he'd beat Bradley if he fought Bradley again. He's already proven that he should be able to beat him twice. But I think we're moving away from the Manny Pacquiao era at 147.
I think just on Bradley, although we probably would agree he is number 2, it's hard to see him not progressing, but the other way to put it is, it's easy to see the others catching up with him just because Bradley hasn't got the options of people to fight. Rios, Pacquiao, he's already been to
Vargas rematch possibly, no cunt wants to see.
Yeah, so really, yeah, he probably is number 2, but the others could quite easily catch up with him, especially if they fight each other.
Alex, next question comes in from Conor Garcia. Has Eddie Hearn become one of Al Heyman's puppet promoters, as seen with Fanfara against Cleverly fight and De Gale signing recently?
Well, he's not officially yet. You could consider him a puppet promoter because he's not putting on shows in the name of Al Heyman, is he? He's got a few fighters that are being advised by Heyman, but certainly not to the level that he's working directly for him. I think that they're helping each other out at the moment. Heyman obviously needs credible opponents for some of his fighters, or it's just to boost them up some of the rankings, I guess. In the case of Fonfara, fighting a former champion like Cleverly is going to do him a lot of favours, I think. And I don't know what De Gale's playing at. I mean, all I can see the Heyman thing is just he's paying more money out of his pocket, to be honest, to another man. I think we've said before that a few fighters should be going over to a few of someone like Kell Brook would probably do well getting advice from Al Heyman.
I think on the Heyman thing, Brook's a good example. He would benefit from going over to America. That's where all the fights are, and that's where the money is. James De Gale, on the other hand, has got all sorts of domestic options. So it is a bit of a strange decision. But the way Eddie will play it is, in his first interview available, he'll say that he's always maintained that he's a promoter, not a manager, and he'll basically claim that it don't make no difference whether they're managed by Kurt Ward or Al Heyman. Obviously, Kurt Ward would be better.
Next question I'll put to you from Kiko Perez, Cal Stones. If you arranged a fight with 50 of Millwall's hardest, which 5 current boxers would you take with you?
Again, that's a belting question. First 2 right off the bat would be Golovkin and Kovalev.
I would take Lebedev. Lebedev would walk through them all, and then I would take Huck.
Vitali, I would say. But
current boxers, mate. Got to be current boxers.
Sorry. I mean, I've got to think of a comedy answer, but I think someone will upstage me. Like, you're going to need someone who can, pick you up and run.
You're all picking the wrong answer here. What you need is someone like Andy Ruiz Jr. and Butterbean, because that way they'll stay behind and you can fucking leg it.
You need someone like Ricardo Mayorga who'll rock up with a knife and something like that. So he'll do your. He's still active.
Jermaine Taylor.
He'll rock up with his machine gun.
Just on Ricardo, is that actually happening with Mosley? Is that a wine? Is that an actual wine?
It's happening. It's done.
Because August 29th, I think it is. Is it August 29th?
Yeah, because Mosley Jr. is going to fight as well, I think, on the same night, something like that.
I think it is August 29th.
That's horrid. That's horrid. That's like exhibition stuff.
People forget the first fight was actually proper shit. Like, it was. Everyone remembers the last second stoppage.
Yeah.
It wasn't a very good fight, and the clamour to see it again is based on Shane Mosley's new personality that he seems to have gained. He didn't have it for 15 years as a pro, so now he's decided he's got a personality, and now him and Mayorga are going to have this ridiculous trash talk nonsense fight in August.
Do you know what? I would seriously love Mayorga to win, and then automatically win Value of the Week when he calls out Mayweather. I would love that.
Kurt, next question. Aisha's got another one, and she's slipping them in this week, actually, I must admit.
Slipping them in?
Yeah, slipping them in. Questions, I mean. Take the mind out the gutter. That's where I go. Kurt, if you were... No, that wasn't that one. That wasn't from her. So this is from Joseph Thomas. How are British promoters expected to bring over Heyman fighters when Thurman pockets $1.5 million for a Clazo fight?
Yeah, I mean, we've been saying it for a while, but to be honest, it's always been the case with the top Americans anyway. I mean, when have we ever been able to bring a lot of them over? It's usually always been the case that if a British guy wants the biggest fights, he's always had to go to Las Vegas or New York, wherever it is. But in the modern era now, you're talking about guys who are not even the biggest stars that we'd never get over. I mean, someone like Santa Cruz, for instance, who earns $750,000 fighting a bus driver. I mean, how are you going to get him over here? Even we mentioned earlier Brandon Rios, who commands such a high fee for a guy who's basically a brain dead punch bag. I mean, it's very hard to get it over here. I mean, you understand the likes of Mayweather and guys like that. You'd never get them over here, but now it's even guys a much lower scale because. Why should they? I mean, if you're earning huge money, it's always been the case. I mean, if you look back over the German fighters over the years, people always criticise someone like Felix Sturm or even someone like Chris John for fighting in their home country all the time. But when they're commanding big fees, why should they move, to be honest?
I think it's almost, using a football analogy, it's like the Man City or Chelsea effect, whereby, you go to Man City, get paid $100,000 a week when you deserve 20, and then they can't get rid of you. And that's the same with Guerrero. He ain't going to get rid of himself from £1 million paydays. So, and I think Brandon Rios, that nickname rings quite well. Kurt. Brandon, the walking punch bag, or what did you call him? The brain dead punch bag Rios. That would work quite well.
Basically, a zombie from The Walking Dead. That's about his brain level.
Right, next question. Steve, another one from Aisha. This is the last one. She needs to calm down by. She's like, I've sent you 3 questions. Just calm the fuck down. If you were to make the perfect boxer, what qualities of other boxers would you use for best defence, power, speed, chin and heart?
Ooh. Well, chin. I like Provodnikov's chin. You can just hit him all day and he just keeps on coming no matter how mashed up his face gets.
Or Ali.
Yeah. Oh, can we go from any point in time?
Yeah, I think so, aye.
Oh, right, okay. Jab. I like Lennox Lewis's jab for the jab. Heart. Oh God, there's been so many over the years, hasn't there?
Matthew Sad Muhammad.
Yeah, Muhammad, Gatti, somebody like that. What are the other things?
Power and best defence. Speed.
Best defence, Pernell Whitaker. Footwork, Broner.
Ian McDonald's.
Yeah. Speed, I'm trying to think.
Ray Robbins.
Did you catch Adam's comment in the fucking chat? It says, this fighter already exists. Guess the name. Carol Frost.
That's especially for Chad Hogan and Dick Taylor.
Adam out.
Sorry,
What's
Steve.
Aisha's? I'd like to know Aisha's opinions.
So
maybe she can put him in the mixer on Twitter.
Amir Khan, best defence.
Speed
best
for Khan. I wouldn't
best
argue with that.
Amir Khan. Fuck it, we'll move on for the probably actually destroy it. Alex, I'll go. No, Paul. David O'Hara's asking, hypothetically, please don't slag me for this. Would there be more money in a Floyd McGregor boxing match than any other for Floyd? What's the big deal with this fucking McGregor cunt, by the way?
Well, he's only a big deal because he's a big name and he sells lots of tickets. I put a tweet out earlier saying there is nothing more annoying or that pisses me off more when people talk about hypothetical boxing versus mixed martial arts fights. Because it's bollocks. They're two completely different sports. It's like going, I wonder how well Wayne Rooney would get on in rugby. I reckon if he ran around, he'd do quite well, but when he actually had to run with the ball in his hands, he'd struggle. It's a nonsense. So Floyd Mayweather has been linked with fighting Ronda Rousey, McGregor, all these guys. Put it straight up. If it was a stand-up fight, Floyd Mayweather would knock Conor McGregor out. The minute the fight goes to the ground, Conor McGregor would win. So in a mixed martial arts fight, McGregor would win. In a boxing fight, Floyd would win.
Paul.
Floyd has more chance of winning in the mixed martial arts arena than Conor does in a boxing venue because he might be able to catch him coming in. But the minute it's on the ground, it's all over. So I will have to knock him for that. UFC boxing questions are stupid and it's a ridiculous notion to even talk about it.
Paul, I thought about this today. And when I first saw your tweet, my initial reaction was, I do agree with you. It is. I mean, it's apt, obviously, with what happened last night, and there has been a lot of hype around McGregor, even to the extent I've actually sat and watched my first ever UFC fight. But this is the same Floyd Mayweather that's been on Dancing with the Stars or whatever it's called, WWF.
He beat the Big Show, of course. He beat Conor McGregor.
I'm just saying, they're at a similar weight. McGregor is obviously a very good boxer. There is more far-fetched suggestions and things actually happened than this.
McGregor would fight him. I think someone serious like
McGregor's
daft
enough or crazy enough to take a boxing match though.
Oh, he'd just get murdered. Like all these guys would, and that's not knocking UFC guys. You see some of the stoppages from punches in UFC fights. The chins comparison is not there. But then, like I said, because they have so many other attributes that boxers don't have, and we've seen it when in joke fights when washed-up drug cheat James Toney fought in a fight and he got knocked out, and we've had fights where the boxers knocked him out in the first 10 seconds. But it's a fun thing to talk about. It's an interesting topic in terms of the styles and the thing, but they are very, very different sports. And as Conor McGregor, the reason the Mayweather comparison's been drawn is because he draws a big crowd to Vegas, and he's become overnight pretty much the face of the UFC along with Ronda Rousey. But that's why both of them have mentioned. Would Ronda Rousey beat Floyd Mayweather? Absolutely. In a mixed martial arts fight, she'd stop him in a minute if she can avoid a punch. But it's a silly topic.
Paul, I've got a question for you. Would you ride Ronda Rousey?
Oh yeah, but then again, this is quite funny. My girlfriend, I showed her a photo of Ronda Rousey's swimsuit thing she did with Sports Illustrated. And she said that women can either be pretty or they can. Her word was actually butch, but I'll say athletic to make it nicer. You can't be both. And I tried to argue that you can, but she'd absolutely destroy you, and she'd end up doing things to you that you wouldn't have agreed to.
Yeah, so tremendous. Sign me up straight away.
It would be an exciting night. I reckon you've come back pretty bruised with marked areas that you didn't.
She's a bit of a chunky monkey, though, isn't she? She's a bit chunky monkey, bit in between fights and that.
I just want to comment on that. What Paul said about Ronda Rousey beating Mayweather in a minute. Does he not know Floyd Mayweather's history with women? He's 25 with 25 knockouts.
He's undefeated.
Knocks them all out in a minute.
The thing is, though, Ronda Rousey's got like wider shoulders than Floyd has. I mean, she is, and like I said,
with the legs as well, about you.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't a UFC podcast, but like I said, Ronda, as a crossover star, Ronda Rousey, Conor McGregor are huge, huge names, and that's what the UFC brand is based themselves behind. In the same way that boxing, even though it's not a single brand, has pushed Floyd Mayweather to the point where he can earn $250 million for a fight. But Ronda Rousey, yes, I would, because I could just tweet every day saying I shagged Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, but I'm just looking at these ESPN cover photos. That is close to seeing the full Monty with that. That's
good story with that. They did, ESPN did a behind-the-scenes shoot, released a video when you could see her boobs and her ass, but they forgot to remove it. So it was online for like 3 minutes, and obviously all the internet perverts uploaded it. So it's out there somewhere if you want to Google it.
Oh, I'll search that. Yeah, cheers.
Alex, Andrew Lee Evans is asking, how long before Hearn taps up Jack Catterall, who in my opinion is the best prospect in the UK?
I wouldn't argue with that. I mean, that's a fair shout, to be honest. Jack Catterall looks more impressive than what we see him. Obviously, it's against limited opposition last night, but you can obviously see him going over to Hearn when Hearn starts flashing the cash and making promises and needing someone to back up some of his cards, as it were. Especially if he starts getting closer to the world title and starts getting world rankings, as it were. So yeah, I mean, Hearn will probably already has his sights locked on Jack Catterall. It just depends how loyal Catterall is and how much money Frank can throw at him.
Big fan of Jack Catterall. He's been travelling and doing a lot of sparring, and I understand he's been sparring with the main man at the Mayweather Boxing Club as well. So yeah, good on him.
Kurt, Andy Roy's asking, I don't know what he means by the second part of this question, but he says, rate the British lightweight scene just now. Also, Alex isn't the Messiah, he's a very naughty boy. Is that you, Alex? What the fuck's this about?
Well, the whole Kogan incident.
Oh, right, okay. Well, you never got involved
which we
in
should
that.
discuss at length, I think.
But anyway, Kurt, rate the current British lightweight scene, but also, Daz Brown's asking, is also Derry Matthews in the best position of any domestic lightweight?
Who's Derry facing again? I forget who's facing who now.
Has he got a fight lined up, eh?
No, he's got nobody. He's not fighting to the end of the year.
Well, that'll probably be Flanagan then, won't it?
I don't know, I think he's looking sort of October, November time before Matthews comes back. I don't think they'll look to make the unification with Flanagan. I don't think that'll be an obvious one that they'll go for.
I think the WBA. I think the WBA might order the unification between the winner of Crawler, Perez, and fight off against Matthews. He holds the interim title.
The WBO
yeah,
really
I think
that'll
happen.
Like that, though.
I think the WBA with Crawler will happen, and that is one of a few that we can see actually happening on Sky, because
they promised
Matthews
the fight,
is towards the end of his career. They promised it. There's history. You know, Matthews' payday, whereas Turbo's got a little bit more. Warren's got a little bit more future earnings with him.
Yeah. I actually forgot. Sorry, cut out question to you, mate. I'll go to you another one. Maravilla Tom, if Jose Zepeda fell in the forest and no one was around to hear his shoulder fall out, would it be a no contest?
Yeah, I mean, I can see why people are pissed off. I mean, like I said, Twitter yesterday they were raging and forums are the same, you know, but like I said, I understand it. In the ideal world, it would be a no contest, because how can it be fair that a guy injured himself, 4 minutes into the fight and in an even fight, and he's lost? But, you know, like I said, if you can get no contest for that, or technical draws for that, a guy could do it at any time. A guy could have a couple of rounds where he thinks, fuck this, I'm getting out of here, and then he can just say shoulders hurt.
They'd all be bailing out, wouldn't they, Kurt?
Exactly, that's the problem. I mean, yeah, in an ideal world, there would be a better way around it, but, you know, we might not like the ruling, but it's there for a reason, and I agree with that in that way. But, I mean, Terry Flanagan, he's got the belt, he's a world champion, but he probably won't feel like it because he's not won it the way he wanted to. And, you know, I know people are talking about a rematch, but it's going to take Zepeda a long time to get over that. I mean, he's in serious pain, but, you know, like I said, it's not Flanagan's fault. I wanted him to win. I was glad he won. It's just that it would have been obviously in better circumstances, but that's just, you know, in a fight game, combat sport, you know, freak accidents will obviously sometimes happen, and it's not anyone's fault.
And that's why stupid fights and stupid contractual sort of stipulations like winner takes all or winner 60-40 nonsense is bullshit, because you'll get incidents like that where the winner will be, you know, the winner because of a freak accident or corruption or, you know, just absolute robberies, and the winner will get the most money, and that's why you can't have it, because it's just completely outrageous to, you know, affect a fighter's purse based on anything that could happen.
It was a shame, really, because it happened on the Box Nation show when Martin Ward challenged Stuart Hall for the world title, and, you know, it was over before it started, because I think it was without a clash of heads, I think it was at the time. And it's such a shame when main event fights fall through like that, but the rule is, people were arguing it, but the rule's there for a reason. I had no issue with it. He injured his arm himself. It wasn't something that Flanagan did to cause the injury. The decision was spot on. It was just, I think what annoyed people was Flanagan bouncing off the ropes like he had just stopped him or something, or just knocked him out with like the shot of the year. I think that was what great people. And also, obviously, Flanagan's lovely fans throwing programs and drinks in the ring didn't go down brilliantly well, but that's par for the course of some fans.
I agree, Paul, with what you say. I thought it was a bit over the top at first, but I suppose if you look at it this way, if he's been like boiling himself down in weight and through the training camp and blah blah blah, and after all these years not getting the breaks and whatever, that's maybe the culmination. Just the letting off of steam. And I thought the same as you, but then at the end of the day, he sort of let him bounce around. Zapata wasn't down on oxygen like from a brain injury or anything. It was only an arm, and so I sort of would forgive Flanagan that. But I thought the same myself at first.
Yeah, I think I agree with Steve. I know what Paul's saying as well. It was a bit cringe, but like I said earlier, to him, this is his dream come true. Whatever way, he didn't want it to be like that. Obviously, you want to beat the man properly, but it's he's got the win. But the thing is, if you think to the guy who's the Japanese guy who fought Regendale, he actually jumped on the ropes and celebrated when he dropped him. So I mean, nothing could beat that.
That was tremendous. But was it better than JC Vargas against Bradley?
Yeah, no, that was truly cringe.
What a pure cunt. I mean, honestly, he should actually get executed without trial for that fucking pish. Honestly, I would love to have seen his reaction once he heard it was going to the cards. His heart must have dropped into his arse.
Has he slept with your missus or something?
No, I just don't. He gets hyped up. Well, doesn't get hyped up, but you hear Adam sometimes saying he's a world class fighter. He's a gatekeeper. But anyway, Steve, next question. Jerry Murray's asking, Brits winning on PBC, Hernan Al making fights, Matchroom licensed in the US, and DeGale signs with Big Al. How long before Matchroom is PBC UK?
It's a good point. I never even thought about that. Could be. Well, we've heard that Hearn and Heyman are supposed to be cosy for a while, but it's all starting to come to fruition now. What was the ins and outs of the DeGale thing? I saw him going over. What was his contractual agreements with Hearn then? Has this all been done?
I don't know, mate.
Is he happy with it? I mean, was DeGale never under any sort of binding contract? Or?
I'm assuming that Ambrose Mendy is now he's out the picture now, is he not? I mean, was he not DeGale's manager at one point?
So were they only dealing with Hearn on the promotional basis then? Basically, he had nothing beyond that.
I think, like Frampton, he's managing his career in America.
Yeah, so it's basically DeGale, like a lot of matchroom fighters, don't have long-term contracts. A lot of them work on fight-by-fight deals, and I think that's how matchroom quite like to do it. It means they're not stuck and tied down with fighters, especially at a certain level. But I think with DeGale, he's set up. So DeGale's mom's very heavily involved in terms of managing and running his career, and he had his mom, and any press work or paperwork that comes from DeGale comes from his mom. And then you've got Ambrose Mendy, who's been like his advisor for the last few years, and now he's got Heyman again as in that advisory role. It doesn't affect anything at all in terms of Matchroom. Matchroom are still his promoters. They will continue to be his promoters. He's not about to jump over and sign with Lou DiBella or something. That's not going to change.
His mum's also heavily involved in throwing insults at the Groves family, and I did have his more serious point on Heyman. Oh yeah, Steve, how you said, to everyone else, including us, it looks like Hearn is cosy with Heyman, but I'm not 100% sure he is. Obviously they've got a relationship, but I think Heyman has looked over the pond. Who's got 90% of the fighters over there? Who's got the Sky deal? Eddie, let's do business with him. I think it's, I don't think they've got a cosy relationship. Say like Sauerland certainly looks cosy.
I'd completely disagree with that on the Sauerland point, because if you look at it, so the whole build-up for Nathan Cleverly was he was going to go fight Jürgen Bremer as a Sauerland fighter, and now Eddie Hearn has decided to risk. And because you can tell the Sauerlands are pissed about it, he decided to risk that relationship by sending his guy over to fight Fonfara. I think Hearn knows that he can't compete with Heyman, but Heyman is definitely the future of boxing in America, whether we like it or not. Yeah. And he's also the present in most circumstances. And he'd rather be on the side of Heyman, especially because Heyman puts on cards in the afternoon, so it suits UK TV quite well. He'd rather look after him than look after Sauerland at the moment. And that's a big indicator, because him and Sauerland have worked on a lot of events.
Heyman's model at the moment, though, isn't doesn't correspond, with Hearn's model, does it? It's sort of completely the opposite. The way Hearn's trying to get all these football fans in and packing out arenas and blah blah blah, and Heyman's going the free TV route. I'd say Hearn maybe hasn't got much choice in this instance, but regarding Soyerland, I think that they got dealt a blow, didn't they, when German TV pulled on them? So he's sort of having to be a bit more deferential to Eddie at the moment, while they try to sort themselves out. But I'd say Hearn's maybe not particularly happy about the whole Heyman thing, but what can he do? I mean, like you said, Heyman's going to be the main power broker, and he's going to have to do all he can to sort of stick in with him.
Yep. Alex, Lee Davis is asking, if boxing didn't start until Hearn dug it up out the grave, does that make Flanagan the first British world champion at lightweight?
I'm not saying anything on this because I got in a lot of trouble with Mr. Cassius last night, pulling up a few mistakes.
But you're only like retweeting people who pulled up those mistakes, so what have you done wrong?
Oh, I chipped in as well.
Oh, right, did you?
It's because Alex is the official anti-cult leader.
Hence the name.
Aided and abetted strongly by Chad Hogan.
Oh, you're creating your own sort of cult, though. The anti-cult cult, Alex. You need to be careful. You could also...
The resistance. We're the resistance.
See, a couple of guys away from
the thing is, us poor cunts are going to get pulled into it just by association, you know. I mean, we've not said nothing against Coogan or anything like that. The next minute he's going to come on this show, he's going to be kicking up fucks, and he's just going absolute bananas. So, listen, speak to the man himself, you know. Leave it off, you know. Alex is just a colleague.
Well, just as a disclaimer, me and Paul won't be getting dragged into it because we love Matchroom.
Absolutely. Hashtag Team Eddie.
And Adam, you need to learn how to say Sourland better, or is it you, Steve?
Sterling?
No, it was me. Soyerland, Sourland,
Sourland. Oh,
Steve's a fan of soya milk, you know, he can't help himself.
Just call him the Krauts.
Right, 2 more questions and it's a Bellew of the Week segment. Lee Davis is asking Paul, who's at fault for the Paul Butler purse bid saga?
Francis Warren. And Paul Butler's naivety in a way, but no.
His manager, who's his manager? Frank Warren?
No, so it's Neil Marsh.
So he needs to be asked. He needs to be asked a few questions then about it.
Well, the whole thing was this: that basically the fight, the story obviously when it broke was that Paul Butler was completely unaware there was a purse bid and said, "Of course I'm not going to take this fight. That's ridiculous." I've said a year ago that I'll never. He said that he'll never fight and defend his British title. Why held on to it? Because there was no reason to give it away. They weren't making him fight anybody. But yeah, this whole purse bid situation happened after a week of negotiation. And Paul Butler had no idea it was going on. And when I say no idea, he's genuinely said that to someone I know very well, that he had no idea this situation was happening, and no, he's not going to fight Kal Yafai. So Eddie has done, like he always does, a masterful bit of PR. He's won the purse bid for a fight that isn't going to happen, but he looks really good. He's made Warren look a bit daft, and Paul Butler, who is a top guy and I really like, look a bit silly and out in the open, really, especially a couple of days before he was in his comeback fight.
Very much agree with everything Paul said, and Francis was made to look a bit of a fool last week because whatever we say about Eddie, he answers the questions about Coogan, even if he has to, put some sugar on the truth. Francis Warren last week literally said, "Go and ask Paul." That's shocking.
Yeah,
that's shocking. They're meant to. I think the Warrens certainly promote him, and probably some company they have an association with manage him, and they were saying, "Go and ask Paul." There was actually an interview promised at the weigh-in with Mr. Butler, which never came, to my knowledge. So yeah, it's all of it shocking with the way Paul Butler's been handled.
Last question. I think everyone needs to weigh in with this one because I think all our listeners need to actually club together in this one. It says from Luke O'Reilly, "I'd like to know how we can shut up Mundine and his ridiculous hardcore fans." Now, if anybody's actually ever spoken to any Aussie boxing fans on Twitter and stuff like that, you can understand that there's just something missing there. Which is, it's hard. It's not hard to understand because in the days, their ancestors went out there in handcuffs, so you can understand it. They're kind of slightly fucked up in the head, So, but Mundine, absolute fucking ludicrous that he's actually even. I mean, that so-called letter that he put into fucking Floyd Mayweather, that wasn't a letter. That was a poorly worded CV, motherfucker. I mean, you're not going to get the fight. Stop fucking wasting nobody's time.
I will say though, from a purely I'm not saying he deserves a fight, but he has more right from a sanctioning body point of view than Andre Berto, Mayfield, even the likes of Khan and people like that. So his claim is ridiculous, and for all of us have been lucky enough to have sat through lots of Australian cards on main event TV and the absolute shit their commentators and people come out with. But he knows he's not getting a fight. He's just trying to get his name back out there. But he has the belt, and he's in that sort of WBC system, and he has got more right than some of the names we've seen mentioned. But oh god, it's just not going to happen. And but Aussies, I would say it's more chance of it snowing in Australia, but it is at the minute. So rarer things have happened.
The best tweet I saw on this is how fucking stupid you have to be to send a letter for Floyd Mayweather to read.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. I think now we're going to get our first caller on very briefly. His name's Gareth, I believe. That's the end of the Twitter questions. After we get Gareth off the call, we'll get on to the Belly of the Week segment. Kurt, you want to add him to the call, mate, or is it Alex you handling that side of it?
Let's do
Adding him now.
Here he comes. Adam, we'll get your mate on, mate, once we come up to that fight for that card for next week.
Yep.
Is you a casual fan by any chance, no?
Absolutely not. Box Nation subscriber.
Oh, good stuff.
Attends more shows than probably most people on here. So yeah.
Good stuff.
Ooh, and doesn't agree with me on everything. Well, very little actually.
Can we swap him for Adam?
Yeah, we can come on full time if you want. But
he sounds very qualified.
Yeah, but
Gareth, yeah.
I've been begged to come back this week.
Quiet guys, quiet. Gareth, alright mate, what's on your mind?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I went to the show last night, so just calling about a couple of things really. The Flanagan show. One was, we went, the fight after the Flanagan fight was Tom Stalker. Obviously great amateur, he's struggling really, but we were watching, he was fighting a guy called Tommy Karras, and it was one of those 8-round fights, really easy to score, and it was Phil Edwards refereeing. And I can't remember if any of you guys talked about it, but Phil Edwards ruined a prize fighter before Christmas. The guy's absolutely clueless. And again last night, about halfway through watching it, and Stalker probably won 6 or 7 rounds to 1. And Phil Edwards, you could watch him. And halfway through I said to my mate, he's going to call this a draw. He hasn't got a fucking clue what's going on. Hasn't got a clue what's going on. He was in the middle of the ring, ambling about. Anyway, end 76-76. And this guy's, at the top level referee. Just an absolute joke.
How did you score it, Gareth?
Yeah, it was. I thought it was 78-75 or 78-74. There was 5 very clear Stalker rounds, 2 clear rounds for Karras, and then one which was either Stalker or a shared round, really. But there was quite a lot of noise ringside for Karras. There seems to be a bit of hatred, I think, towards Stalker in Liverpool. But Phil Edwards, you're just watching him. He didn't know what the fuck was going on. I don't think he knew where he was.
He's seen ready for retirement anyway. I mean, it's about time. I mean, they really do need some fucking fresh referees coming through the system. Like, I mean, Steve Gray's pretty good. Victor Loughlin's probably their best. Shaming about Richie Davis getting pushed out. I really did like him as a referee as well. I thought he didn't take any shit off anybody in the ring.
Yeah, it's just, it can make ruin people's careers really. Cause, I mean, Stalker's not going too far really, but that's pretty much killed his career last night. I think really.
That draw.
Yeah, the other interesting thing was Prince Patel was there ringside last night.
Oh God!
It was we followed him in. So there was Kell Brook was around last night, and he was keeping a pretty low profile. IBF champion of the world, keeping a nice low profile, having pics with fans. And then Prince Patel was wandering around in shades, pair of shorts up to his bloody just below his bloody thighs, and nobody knew who the fuck he was. He was wandering around clearly trying to get pictures with people, and people just knew who he was. Absolutely not it.
Fucking brilliant. Anything else, mate?
No, that was it really. It was a bit of a shame the way the Flanagan fight ended, I think, to be honest. But he had a decent following there, Flanagan, and he's a tall guy for a lightweight. And I think even in 2 rounds, round and a half, really, you could see he was causing Zepeda a bit of problems with his kind of reach. So I think he might have a decent future, and he seems like a nice guy. But just a bit of a shame the way it ended, really.
He's really is kind of learning on the job though, Flanagan, isn't he?
Yeah, but anyway, keep up the good work.
Anyways, mate. Cheers for that, Gareth.
Cheers.
All the best, Gareth. Cheers. Right, Alex, can you get the Belly of the Week segment intro playing, mate? I would say it's kind of, I would say it's thin, but I think we've actually got a corker here that's it's going to take some beating.
Okay, I'll loading it up now.
Okay, what's
Now you fucking rat!
Okay, what's the value of the week?
It's back now. I've got Keith Thurman up twice this week. So Thurman's nomination goes for. He was speaking on the Mayweather snubbing him. He says he doesn't need Keith Thurman, and Keith Thurman doesn't need Floyd Mayweather. Right, okay. And he also, I don't know if it was actually, this was the misquote or whatever, of someone actually typed this out wrong, but apparently Thurman and his team said they were looking to do 26 million viewers against Collazo and ESPN. Is that right, Alex? Your way, fucking prick. Roy Jones Jr., what has he said? He says that Mundine gives Mayweather the fight of his life. Steve Collins mentions that Frank Buglione is better than what he was. He's going to win this fight against Chudinov because he can box, he can fight, he's got a great chin, power and intelligence. I don't think he's seen the fight against... Who was that guy who fought Steve? That's the one. That's the one. Who else we got? I think that was the ones I've got. I think this one's going to be the clear winner this week. I don't know if you guys have got anything, but Betaway. It was a Betway. Adam, have you heard of this company before?
Yeah, they did some sponsorship with the Matchroom guys.
Right, well, they should be shut down. In fact, Train Standard should get involved with this mob and actually just take the license off them, because they've actually released odds for Mayweather's next opponent.
Yeah.
Now, Khan, Thurman, Bradley, Brook, Mayfield, Berto, Pacquiao. Now that's all fine apart from the Pacquiao one. That's all good and well, but then it gets really stupid to start mentioning the following names as follows: Austin Trout, James DeGale, David Hay, Gennady Golovkin, George Groves, Marco Hook, and Carol Froch. And you know the fucking worst it is? This is actually even fucking funny. They've actually got David Hay at shorter odds than Carol Froch.
Where's Mundine?
Mundine isn't even quoted.
Oh.
I'll have to check that out, but...
They've got Hay at 50s and they've got Froch at 100.
They could have at least picked an active heavyweight. Go for Vladimir Klitschko, at least.
Betway sponsored the, I think the Groves Froch 2, and they had all sorts of specials, and one of them was any fighter to reveal a new tattoo at the weigh-in. So, but basically, there was a very small-time company. It's very easy to set up an online gambling company now, and yeah, they don't take many bets.
So that's all I've got this week, but I think Betway's kind of like pushing it in front there. But Alex, you back, mate? Are you got any nominations? Alex, no back yet. Kurt, you got any nominations, mate?
Nothing. I think we've got a clear winner there, though.
Yeah. Paul, can you beat that? Paul, no there? Okay. Steve, Adam?
No.
Nope.
So, I think it's going to be unanimous. And well, Alex is no back yet. Kurt, who gets your vote?
Betway has to be.
Paul? He's no back, is he? Fucking hell. Steve?
Yeah, I'm going to go for Betway as well, but an honourable mention for Steve Collins is one there. I know he's only trying to hype up Buglione and that, but very self-deprecating. Come on now, Steve. I mean, Buglione, come on.
I think if while the others are away and we're still deciding, we should decide, is this Betway, where does it rank with Devon Alexander's stretch
no,
no,
that's Hall of Fame worth him. I mean, I think they agreed on that Devon Alexander is the first into the Hall of Fame.
I'm going to go for Steve Collins, and reason being, the Betway idiots probably don't know what they're talking about, and it'll be someone who normally does dogs or rugby or something like that. But Steve Collins knows what he's talking about, and he still said that, so that's it's pretty bad.
Someone doing the Hoover in the background there must be Alex, that's why he's not kicking around the
Well, Steve's mentioned the Hoover on the chat earlier.
Yeah.
I thought you were being sucked up, Adam. Are you alright?
No, I'm sorry.
We get fucked off there like
Paul, I think Chloe's told him to do the hoovering or he'll be kicked out.
Well, we were going in the twilight zone
we're
here.
getting feedback.
Here's Paul's sound.
Is our safe coming on?
Jesus Christ. Right, Alex, who's getting your vote for Belly of the Week? Is it going to be Betway?
Yeah, that Betway one's pretty fucking horrific. When did Mundine do his letter? Because I wouldn't mind nominating that, actually.
I think he got nominated last week, I think.
Was that last week, was it?
Yeah.
Definitely
Betway's going to win this week's Belly of the Week award, so congratulations. Adam, can you get in touch with us, for us, mate, and let them know?
Yeah, I'll get onto that tomorrow.
Good stuff. You hear the crowd are happy about that. Right, anyways, we've got a fight schedule coming up now. We'll be getting Adam Smith's friend on the show in the next 10 minutes or so. We'll just very briefly cover the some of the smaller cards taking place next week. Steve, Carl Frampton in action for the first time under the Al Heyman banner, so to speak, in Texas against Alejandro Gonzalez. You had any chance to have a look at this guy, Gonzalez? You think it's going to be much of a test for Frampton?
Yeah, I've had a look at him. I don't think he's going to be much of a test. I was saying earlier, I've been required to write something about him, so I've been trying to go through the internet to find as much possible information as I can, and there's not a great deal now, to be honest with you. He's a bit of a mystery man, but I've looked at him on YouTube, and he seems pretty tall for the weight. Seems to know what he's doing. He's a young guy, but he's had a lot of fights, as the Mexicans are, so I don't think he's a complete stiff, but I don't see him beating Frampton. He's a handy little first fight to ease him into the American market, and I expect Frampton to get rid of him probably mid to late rounds, but there should be bigger tests for him to come if Al Heyman gets his finger out, whether it be like Santa Cruz or Rigondo or whoever, we'll wait to see, but Gonzalez should be a decent first fight, and he's a handy enough opponent, but no world beater, so yeah, comfortable enough win for Frampton.
Well, on the undercard, they got Joe Arrow against Arthur Villanueva for the vacant IBF Super Flyweight title. Chris Arreola facing off against Fred Cassie. I think he got knocked out brutally off, what's his name? Hardcore Mansour. But Kurt, I think the other fight is, I mean, they've actually got a 3-star rating on BoxRec. That's a disgrace. Julio Cesar Chavez against Marcos Reyes. This guy Reyes, who actually struggled to a 12-round majority decision against a beyond shot the shit Yuri Boy Campos.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing it really safe again with Chavez after the Fanfara fight. I mean, we don't even know what weight he's going to be. I know he's saying he wants to be at super middleweight, but I still don't think he'll make it, for the big fights. And this will probably be some weird catch weight as well. He'll probably come in a couple of pounds over, but yeah, we said it before about Chavez, once he left middleweight, his career was basically over, because at middleweight, that's his chance to bully guys and wear them down with his size. He can't do that anymore once he's left. Fanfara showed that, when he was the one being bullied during the whole fight. So they're going to play it safe, give him a few easy fights, and then maybe cash him out in a big fight.
I meant to say, mate, I actually meant to start on this one, but Friday night actually sees Erkin Tepper and David Price. What do you think? You see much of Tepper? I've got to be honest, I haven't seen much, or if I've seen anything at all of him. Is Price stepping at the deep end here again?
Yes.
Tepper can punch. I mean, he brutally knocked out, I know it's only Martin Rogan, but he
nearly killed him.
He really brutally knocked him out. He hurt the British heavyweight, what's his name? I can't remember. He badly hurt Sprott as well. I mean, you'd think Price should win, but this guy's undefeated. Price, has he really recovered from the Thompson losses? You don't know. I mean, now he knows he's going in there with a legitimate guy who can, a legitimate puncher anyway. The guy might be, a bit crude, but he's a big guy and he can punch, and Price will know that one mistake and he'll probably be knocked out. And I still expect Price to do it, but I think this will be a good fight. I think it'll be a bit of a shootout, and I'd expect Price to win by knockout by mid-rounds.
I think it will be a decent fight. I think Tepper's been slightly inactive. He's had one fight this year, obviously we're only halfway through. I think he only had one fight last year. He knocked out Sprott and Rogan within 6 months. I thought Rogan was nearly dead. Still on his feet, I must add. But yeah, I thought it's definitely going to match Price, nearly match him for size, I think. And but he can obviously punch Tepper, but I thought he looked pretty slow from what I've seen of him. I had a quick look at him today, but I think Tepper's worth having a few quid on, He's 11-4. It's for some sort of European belt, so he obviously, both guys should know there should be a decent standard. So yeah, I'm expecting a decent and interesting shootout.
He's a massive puncher, isn't he, Tepper? Whenever he beat Rogan, I think he broke his jaw that badly. Rogan had to have like some kind of implant or something, or
I'm not sure if I would class him as massive, Steve. To be honest, it was more of a combo rather than a one punch combo. Rogan was out on his feet, leaning on the ropes,
Yeah.
Castillo-esque kind of thing.
I just think since Price has come back, he's been very safely matched, as you would expect, to get his confidence back. And now he seems to be jumping in, with a big punch. I mean, like I said, the guy looks pretty crude and, as Adam said, a bit slow, but this guy's got the confidence, and I just don't know. I think this is exactly what Price needs. He needs a good win, a good knockout over a guy he knows that he can't make a mistake against. The fights that he's been with Salen so far, he hasn't really had to produce the goods really to win, and now I think he'll have to.
I think Price I think Price is going to knock this guy clean out in about 2 or 3 rounds. I think he's going to make a bit of a statement, and maybe the bandwagon will start rolling again.
That's what he needs, yeah.
Well, the problem is with Price, though, what happens if the fight starts going late? I know he's sort of had those fights that have gone a bit longer against, but very poor opposition, but is this guy still going to be punching late on? I mean, the problem is with Price, he's got the lung capacity of an asthmatic beetle. I mean, you never even know if he's going to be able to make it through the 10 rounds at a decent pace, but this guy's a bit plodding, so I think Price is going to catch him with a big one on the chin in about second or third.
We must give Price a bit of credit here, because I think this fight was meant to happen on the Matchroom show a few weeks ago in Liverpool, obviously home advantage. They missed out on the purse bids, and there could have been an argument made for quote
injured as well, apparently.
Yeah, go in another direction. So hats off to Sauerland himself and manager for continuing to go forward with it. I know it's in Germany and he's probably classed as a home fighter, but it's certainly a long way from Liverpool.
And it's what he needs as well, doesn't it? That's what I mean. He can't keep just padding his record with soft touches. I mean, Price, before he fought Tony Thompson, was really getting a lot of hype. He was getting too much hype, and then it's sad to see that a couple of losses and everyone basically deserted him. But he's still an exciting heavyweight to watch, and if he does get his confidence back, with a win here, he's right back in the mix again. The heavyweight division he's very thin. You got the guy on top, and then you got a couple of others, and then it's pretty much anyone's can get up there. So I think. Price, he's a big guy, he's got the power, so I think this will be a good fight, and like Steve said, I expect him to win by knockout.
Anthony Ogogo is fighting in Germany next week on the undercard of the 4th fight between Arthur Abraham and Robert Stieglitz. I just hope, guys, we get a clear-cut winner in this fight, and the WBO just say, okay, that's enough, no more of this shit. I think Abraham actually won the 3rd fight, pretty well, actually. Boxed pretty good off the back foot. I did think he won it clearly as well, so I didn't really see the need for a 4th fight.
Who are they talking about? Who was it? Who are they talking about Abraham fighting if he gets through this? Is it that Ramirez who was fighting the other week?
No, Sturm
quite high up in the ratings.
Sturm lost his last fight, so that's really fucked that up.
Yeah.
I think someone was mentioning that. Is it Gilberto Ramirez?
No, who was it now? Who was it? Martin Murray. Was it no Martin Murray?
No. I don't know. It doesn't matter anyway.
But I think Sturm did win the 3rd fight quite easily, and it was kind of unexpected because although there was the eye injury in the 2nd fight, I thought Stieglitz really put it on him there, and he caused the injury rather than busting your shoulder like we saw last night. So Abraham did do pretty well to win the 3rd fight, and with a degree of ease. So, and I expect the same next week, to be honest.
Right, before we finish off with the Macau card, we're going to have Adam's good friend on. I believe he stays overnight with Adam and stuff like that. His name's Jamie. Jamie, you there, bud?
Hello.
How you doing, mate?
I'm not so bad, you?
Not bad. First question, mate. Are you a big Matchroom fan?
Yes and no.
Oh.
I can take or leave them. I agree with some things you do, not so much others.
The correct answer to that was no.
I mean, you've got a lifetime pass to this place, mate. But I believe you and Adam are going to be in attendance next week at the Sam Egginton and Glenn Foote. I think they're topping the bill, by Quig Martinez, sorry. Quite a lot of good fights on that card, actually. What are you really looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to the Crawler and Perez fight myself.
Oh, you want to meet your mic, mate? Put the Hoover on again. Anyways. Sorry, Jamie, on you go, mate. I've never heard you there, mate.
The Crawler Perez fight is one I'm looking forward to personally.
Have you watched much of Perez, mate?
To be honest, I've not seen much of him at all. I'm more a Crawler fan.
You think he's going to come through? Well, have you heard any word of how obviously he would get the pass off the board, that his head's okay? Hopefully everything just falls into place for him. Because I've met Anthony a few times. I've seen him fight school Willie Lemon up in Scotland and stuff. If anybody was going to make it in that lightweight division, I'd like to see Crawler do it.
Yeah, well, I've seen a few pictures that have been tweeted of him. He looks in incredible shape, and I read he ran in the Great North Run a month or two back. So obviously I'm hoping the ankle's fully healed. And if his heart and fitness and stamina are still there, I think Perez will do well to match him, and I just hope that's enough for him to get the job done. And if it does, it sets him up for some big domestic fights, the likes of Flanagan maybe, Mitchell, Burns.
Yeah, hopefully if I can just get the politics sorted out there. What about Quig's defence against Kiko Martinez?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's obviously the biggest fight of his career, and I think he kind of needs this fight. He's coming out parade, hopefully. he's never fought anyone that can hit as hard as Martinez, and he's been down in the past against Jamie Arthur, granted a couple of years ago, but you never know. I think he might be a bit eager to impress given the inevitable Frampton comparisons that are going to come his way regardless of what happens on Saturday night.
Steve, I see John O'Carroll's fighting on this card, mate.
Yeah, John O'Carroll's fighting.
Barrington Brown.
Yeah, it's not a fight of any great description, Barrington Brown, but it'll keep him active and might push him into the mix. But yeah, Carroll's doing okay. I noticed Declan Geraghty got a good win as well on the Conlon undercard. It was that Carroll who pipped Geraghty for that prize fighter spot last November. So both of the guys are doing okay, and Carroll can still make waves, I think.
What about any rest of the panel? What do you think about this card, Alex, Kurt? I think Alex, you're just brimming with confidence.
Some bale of hay rolling past.
It's a decent card, I suppose, isn't it? I mean, it's probably one of the best matchroom I've actually done, which is that's not been on pay-per-view anyway. Which says a lot, really. I mean, Scott Quigg against a guy that is a main rival, already beat twice, and Anthony Collar. I've rarely got a bad word to say about Anthony Collar. He seems like a nice bloke, and I hope he does well. But nothing negative to say about that, unfortunately. I know a lot of people would be excited to hear me moan a lot about this card, but there's not too much negative to say. But once I start seeing the hype machine in full force and all the other bollocks, then I'm sure I'll come up with some unjust criticism.
Jamie, give me your official prediction, mate, for Martinez, Quigg and Perez Corolla.
I think Quigg will grind him down and get to him late, and I'm hoping Crawler's work rate will be enough to see him nick a close, possibly controversial points decision.
I can maybe see Crawler coming off the canvas in this fight, actually.
It wouldn't surprise me, but he's got a big heart, and I think he's a man who he's got nothing to lose. He's lost it all once. He's been given it the second chance, and I think that makes him a dangerous man. I think the towel may come in. I wouldn't be surprised to see that, but Anthony Crawler won't be giving up.
So there you go. Jamie's saying he wants Quigg's going to win, and you want Crawler to win. Anything else you want to cover with us, mate?
I was going to touch on Terry Flanagan's celebrations last night, but you guys have already covered that. I agree with you. I thought it was a bit embarrassing given the circumstances, but I can give him a bit of credit. It's his lifetime dream to win a world title, but I'm sure he wouldn't want to win it like that. But I just thought it's not like he's nicked a technical decision. He's won a couple of rounds. He's fought for 6 minutes, and I wouldn't have said it was a level fight, and he celebrated as if he's
beaten Floyd Mayweather or something.
Yeah. Other than that, that's pretty much it, I think.
No worries, mate. Cheers for that, mate.
Cheers.
Hopefully call back in again. Just finishing off, guys. We've got the card from Macau. Anybody know what time this is on at our time? Is this going to be a reasonable hour or something?
Macau cards are usually lunchtime.
I'll not see it anyway. I'll be heading up to north of Scotland, but I suppose. Well, Daenerys back in action against Anthony Setol. Haven't even seen this guy before. He's some Frenchman with 8 knockouts, so he's never going to really cause Daenerys any major problem, I don't think. It'll just be interesting to see as to where he's at. And I suppose Kurt at Yang against the power punching Argentinian Cesar Queno or Sacina, whatever his fucking name is, 47-0, 2 knockouts.
Well, he got another knockout then, did he? He won for ages, I seem to remember.
Yeah, he got a knockout mid-March in 2013.
I mean, if you get stuck by this guy, the theory that you got a dodgy chin, I mean, it must really be true there. I mean, it must be horrible fighting this guy and being now the second guy to be stuck by. I mean, it just must be awful because the guy he's got the worst punch record in boxing currently. I mean, there was a heavyweight, wasn't there, not too long back? He had like something like a 20-20 record, and none of his wins. He didn't have a single knockout victory. I can't remember his name.
Zuri Lawrence.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So,
what was his name?
Zuri Lawrence. He was a Euro sport staple.
Yeah.
Fuck's sake.
But mate. Well, obviously this Yang character. I mean, he's got a bit of self-belief about him, plenty of character, plenty of colour about him anyway. Pretty wild though, Steve, at the same time. Very, very crude with his punches.
Who are you talking about, sorry?
Yang.
I have no idea, sorry.
He seems to be a popular one over in China, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's pretty much the I don't know if he's the biggest attraction behind like Pacquiao and what's his name, Zhu Xiuming, but people are expecting him to win, and I expect Bob Arum is expecting him to win as well to really continue his Macau adventures. But I've not seen a lot of this Yunker either, but what it would point towards, he's going to school him, but hopefully Ik Yang pulls the upset, and as people have said, he's a bit of a character, he's a bit of a wild one, but he's a bit crude as well. So it'll be an interesting fight to see. Hopefully it doesn't turn into a bit of a boring spoiler fest through Sianka.
Adam, you had something you want to add on this, mate, and I'll get the official predictions for the prediction league.
Yeah, just on Manchester, I mean, on recent form, it's hard to see how this isn't on pay-per-view. Not that I'm saying it should be, but, it's an extreme comparison to the likes of Newcastle and Birmingham we've had this year, but, two good fights. I did watch a bit of Perez last week, and I thought he's got a dangerous jab, a dangerous left hook. He doesn't throw that many combinations from what I saw. Can counter, can come forward. His footwork's pretty decent, and I think he'll try and frustrate Crawler, early doors. But I think that he's not particularly fast, so I think Crawler's work rate will wear him down. But Crawler will have to be on form for every second of every round. Really, he'll need the Ricky Hatton-esque type performance, I think, and he could well get it. But Crawler's actually the outsider for that. 6-4 Crawler, 8-13 Perez. So there'll probably be some patriotic money on Crawler this week. As for Quigg, he's in the unfortunate situation whereby they're selling him as a world champion, and this is his biggest fight of someone who's been soundly beaten by another so-called world champion twice. So it depends which way they're selling it. I remember we did the video at the time. If they're accepting that Quigg is a level below Frampton and Rigondo, then yeah, it's a great matchup. If they're doing this with the main aim to build a Frampton fight and compare to it, then no, it's not good enough. He's been brushed aside by Frampton twice before. But whichever way they go, the fight's happening. I think it'll be decent. Martinez is, if he's in shape and he's shown that he can come back from losses before and go on to win world titles, he's certainly the biggest puncher Quigg's faced for a while, and it'll definitely be dangerous. I just think Quigg, we can say what we want about him, but I think he does work on his game a lot. He's obviously massively dedicated, committed, and puts the work in, and I think that they'll definitely have a decent game plan to do what they need to do to get the win over Martinez. Martinez isn't going to bring anything different next Saturday than what we've already seen. So I think Quigg and Gallagher are going to have every the 2 or 3 versions of Martinez that we could have. They're going to have it all covered, and I think he probably will win. But from a betting perspective, I'll be having a little go on the Martinez KO because he's definitely going to swing, and if he lands, we've seen Quigg go down before. It potentially could happen again. So, but although it sounds daft, although I expect Quigg to win the fight, not 100% sure how. But I am going to have a small play on Martinez just in case he does land one of them looping hooks on the way out of a clinch or the way out of a exchange.
I think Quigg. Oh, go on. I was just going to say, I think Quigg's in a bit of a no-win situation because, like you said, he's fighting a guy who, his big rival has already defeated twice. But I think it's a bit harsh. I mean, I've been critical of Quigg before, but I think this is a fine fight for him. I mean, this is easily the best guy on his record. We know what Kiko's all about. We know he'll bring it. And, I know some people are saying, it's Frampton's leftovers, but if you look at his record, if you bookmark the two, bookend the 2 Frampton losses, he was in the form of his life. I mean, he went to Japan, knocked out Hasegawa, he knocked out Mafabula, he went to America and beat Romero, all massive victories. And it's only Frampton who's beaten him in the last 6 or 7 years. So I don't think there's any need to criticise Kiko Martinez. I think I give him a good chance of winning. To be honest, I'm not sold on Scott Quigg, and he'll show us a lot. I think against Kiko, who we know he's just gonna. He might be one-dimensional, we know what he's going to do, but he makes it a very tough night for a lot of guys, and I thought he gave Frampton, especially in the first fight, a lot of trouble, and Frampton is, I rate Frampton, so let's see if Quigg, can do a similar job on him, but in terms of the actual card, I think it's easily their best card for ages. I mean, you obviously, you know, if you want to class it as a world title fight, Scott Quigg. You got the Perez against Crawler fight, which is again another, on paper, it's a really tough fight for Crawler, but one that he can win. You also got Eggington against Glenn Foot, which I think could be the fight of the night, a bit under the radar. Yeah. Tara Nurse on it as well, I believe, as well.
Yeah, that's a Commonwealth title. Yeah, against
Martin Murray's on it as well.
Yeah, that's a.
Your sound's still really bad, Paul.
So I think it's a good night of action. On paper, they're all competitive fights, in my opinion, and I think, you know, we slight Hearn and Matchroom, but I think for this one, you know, it's not a pay-per-view, so it's a fine night.
Just on the Eggington, sorry, I think Eggington's definitely on the way up, and I was actually at that prize fight in Wolverhampton. The prize fighter that Foot won, although he was on the other side of the draw, Eggington was also in that tournament. Eggington's obviously was young and still is quite young and is coming on, but Glenn Foot, I don't know if anyone's read Boxing Monthly this month. He's been through all sorts, that lad. There was some sort of machete attack local to him that, you know, put him out of action for a while. That wasn't discussed in there, it was just a one-liner. So, you know, he's probably got himself in a bit of trouble there. He also him and his mates ended up kicking off at an amateur boxing show, and he got his licence revoked by the board for a while, and he had to appeal that. So he's been through quite a lot, Foot, but he's been a little bit under the radar. Obviously, he's not a matchroom fighter, so, you know, not many people will know about him, but I definitely expect that to be a good fight. Foot will bring it, and Eggington, I think his power's coming on lovely, Eggington, so yeah, that's a decent fight to look forward to.
I was going to mention that Kevin Satchel was facing Thomas Masson for the European flyweight title in France next week, but I just noticed it's been put back to that card on the 24th of July. It's got Buglione and Chudanov on it. So to finish off, Alex is going to take the predictions for the upcoming fights, and we're going to go for Quigg Martinez and Crawler Perez, or we're going to leave Stieglitz and Abraham to the side.
It's up to you.
Right, we'll go Quigg Martinez, Kurt. Just who's going to win. What we'll do is we'll say whoever wins gets 3 points for correct prediction. Okay.
Let's go.
I'm going for Kiko.
Okay. Paul. What's Paul?
He's put his down on Skype.
Quigg. Okay, Quigg. Steve.
Yeah, Quigg as well.
Adam.
We're just going straight winner.
Yeah.
Quigg.
Okay, I'll go Quigg as well.
And I've got Quigg as well.
And Crawler against Perez, Kurt.
Perez.
And Paul's got Perez. Steve.
Crawler.
Adam.
Yeah, I'm Crawler. I just think it'll be his night.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Crawler as well, just partly because I want to see him do it. Adam, Alex.
I've got Perez.
Right, so there we go. 3 points of victory. No problem for that. So I think that pretty much takes us up. Now, just to let listeners know, as I will not be in action next week. Steve Wellens will be taking up the hot seat. I will be away camping up in the north of Scotland. So I'd like to thank the panel this week: Alex Morris, Kurt Ward, Paul Webb, Steve Wellens, Adam Smith, and his pal Jamie. I've been your host, Andy Patterson, and we'll see you next week. All the best.
Carl Froch, British boxing legend.
Cock-nosed twat.
Joe Gallagher's a cock.